All right, welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that's, well, pretty revolutionary. But let's be honest, it can be a little confusing. We're talking about Bitcoin. In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain slide by slide and get right to the heart of what it is and, why you should even care. So let's just dive right in.
But first, before we get into all the tech, let's start with a really simple question. Think about it for a second. You can hand your friend a $10 bill, it's instant, there are no fees, and nobody else is involved, right? So why is it that sending that exact same $10 online suddenly becomes so complicated? This right here is the core problem Bitcoin was built to solve.
So let's start right there. Because to really get why Bitcoin's solution is so different, you first have to understand the problem it was designed to fix. And that problem is how we send money in the digital age. When you put them side by side, the difference is pretty wild. Cash is simple, right? It's instant, it's direct from me to you, peer-to-peer, and it's private. But almost every single digital payment, whether it's a bank transfer or a credit card swipe, has to go through middlemen. And these middlemen, well, they add delays, they take a cut for themselves, and they forced us to trust them with both our money and our personal data.
Okay, so with that problem clearly laid out, let's jump to the solution. A solution that basically appeared out of thin air back in 2008.
And you really can't talk about this without understanding the timing. It was 2008. The financial crisis was in full swing, and people's faith in banks and traditional finance was just shattered. And right in the middle of that chaos, this anonymous person or group called Satoshi Nakamoto releases a paper. It proposed a totally new kind of money, one that didn't need banks at all. And by 2009, the Bitcoin network was officially live.
This quote from the very first sentence of that paper just says it all. The mission wasn't to create just another payment app. Nope. The goal was to create actual digital cash, something that could completely cut out those middlemen. The big question, of course, is how on earth is that even possible?
Well, the answer is in the technology that makes it all run. This is where we get into the how, but I promise we're going to keep it super simple. The secret sauce here is something called a blockchain. Put simply, it's just a record book, a public ledger that's shared and copied across a huge global network of computers. The two most important words to remember here are distributed and immutable. It means the record book is everywhere at once, and once something is written in it, it can't be changed, ever.
This is my absolute favorite way to think about it. Imagine a digital notebook that automatically copies and shares itself with thousands of people around the world. Now, if one person tries to be sneaky and change an entry in their copy, what happens? Well, everyone else's copy will instantly show that it doesn't match. The fraud is obvious. That, in a nutshell, is the powerful idea behind a distributed ledger. So here's how it actually plays out. Let's say you want to send some Bitcoin. That request gets broadcast out to the entire network. Then, thousands of computers all check it out to make sure it's legit. Once it's validated, it gets bundled together with a bunch of other recent transactions into what's called a block. And then, boom, that new block gets cryptographically locked onto the end of the chain, creating a permanent, public record of the transaction.
So, you might be wondering, who are all these people running these computers and doing all this work? Well, they're called miners, and they're not doing it for free. By dedicating their computer power to solve really complex math problems, which is what secures the network and validates everything, they get a reward. And that reward is brand new Bitcoin. It's a genius system, really. It keeps the network secure, and it's how new coins are created.
Okay, so we've got this digital money. It's secured by a global network of computers. That all sounds cool. But this leads us to the biggest question of them all. Why is any of this actually valuable?
The answer really starts with this number right here, 21 million. Unlike traditional currencies, where governments can just decide to print more whenever they want, Bitcoin's code has a built-in, hard-coded limit. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. That's it. It's written in stone, so to speak. And this program's scarcity is absolutely fundamental to its design.
So its value really stands on three main pillars. First, that digital scarcity we just talked about. This gives it a quality a lot like digital gold. Second is decentralization. There's no single person, no company, no government that can control it or shut it down. And third, and this is true for all forms of money, even the dollar, is collective belief. It has value simply because the millions of people who use it all agree that it does.
But of course, it's not that simple. As you've probably heard, Bitcoin is one of the most hotly debated assets on the planet. So let's take a fair and balanced look at the major arguments, both for and against it.
So on the one hand, a huge pro is that Bitcoin gives you total sovereign control.
If you have your private keys, think of those as the master password to your funds, then you are your own bank. Nobody can freeze your account or take your money. But the flip side of that freedom is some pretty extreme volatility. The price can go to the moon, sure, but it can also crash, which makes it a really risky asset to hold.
Another massive pro is accessibility. Literally anyone with an internet connection can use it. This opens up financial services to billions of people who might not have access to traditional banks. The counter-argument, though, is a really big one: the environment. That mining process we talked about, the one that keeps the network secure, it uses a tremendous amount of electricity, and that raises some very valid environmental concerns.
And finally, what many see as its greatest strength, its decentralization, is also a source of real tension. The fact that no one is in charge makes the network incredibly resilient and hard to stop. But that same feature creates a ton of regulatory uncertainty, because governments all over the world are still trying to figure out how to deal with this brand new kind of technology.
So, after looking at the problem, the tech, the value, and the whole debate, where does that leave us? What's the big takeaway here? We're going to end with the same question that kind of started this whole thing. You see, Bitcoin is so much more than just a digital currency. It's a massive, ongoing experiment. It's a test to see if we, as a global society, can build a financial system that's open to everyone without needing to trust those middlemen. And honestly, no matter what happens to its price tomorrow, the answer to that question, well, that could change everything.